Welcome to the program's dialogue. This is a series of events in preparation of the Clean Energy Transition Partnership, one of the partnerships under preparation for Horizon Europe, the new framework program for research and development. This series of events is facilitating a dialogue between ERA-Nets with their successful formats and with their experiences of the last 10 years and national program owners and program managers. The event series is hosted by the joint programming platform Smart Energy Systems. Please be aware that the events are provided on our YouTube channel as a live stream and as a recording, resulting in the fact that whatever you contribute in the chat or via live talk will be public. The Clean Energy Transition Partnership is going to be a transnational joint programming initiative to boost and accelerate the energy transition, building upon regional and national RDI funding programs. Therefore, the program's dialogue intends to create joint knowledge about the most powerful and successful formats and tools to promote research, technology development, and innovation. In a mutual learning and capacity building exercise, we want to learn about good practices, successful activities, effective approaches, but also about the things we tried to do and that did not work out. For this, we want to create together with you an open and interactive atmosphere. The dialogue events are organized in a SureFix mode every Friday at 11 a.m. on this YouTube channel. Each event will present one or a group of initiatives, and we have already a dense schedule until mid-March. However, if you want to present your program or initiative and you are not on the list yet, please let us know and we will find a slot for you. Each of the events will have the same format of presentation blocks of about 10 to 15 minutes, highlighting a specific topic or aspect, followed by a question and answer and discussion session of about 10 minutes. If you have a question, please use the chat function in the YouTube channel. We will bring it up. You want to get on stage and discuss live with the speakers? Send your request in the chat. We will bring you up on stage. The process to develop the Clean Energy Transition Partnership has come a long way. We have started with a stakeholder groups dialogue with all the SETPlan initiatives and ERA-Nets, developing thematic RDI challenges in spring and summer last year. Based on these inputs in a country's dialogue, the Strategic Research and Innovation Agenda was developed and launched in a SETPlan conference side event in November 2020. Now we want to bring together all the partners, funding institutions, ministries, program managers and program owners that are ready to contribute to the implementation of this new joint programming initiative. The number of countries and regions joining has been growing and growing over the last months, and there are still new partners coming on board. A great core team of enthusiastic experts from different organizations all over Europe is committed to bring this initiative forward. Enjoy the program's dialogue, and now let us introduce the speakers of today. Hello everyone, good morning on this sunny Friday in Vienna. I hope you are doing well and welcome you very much to our event today in the series of the program dialogues. Today we have the pleasure to present the ERA-Net on concentrated solar power, the CSP ERA-Net. And our speakers today are Rachel Tully from Extremadura Energy Agency in Spain, Beatriz Gomez Miguel from the Agencia Estatal de Investigación, Julio Marcamalo Amado from the Spanish Foundation for Science and Technology, and Kambulakwao Shakanga, I hope I pronounced that correctly, from Project Management Jülich. Also Renate Horbelt from Project Management in Jülich in Germany, and Julian Blanco from CIEMAT in Spain. I also welcome our co-moderators, that is Geri Brembroek from the Netherlands Enterprise Agency and Fredrik Lundström from the Swedish Energy Agency. Hi, Fredrik and Geri. Very nice to see you again. Our Regie team that is supporting us with all the practicalities, organizational stuff and technicalities, that's Nicolas Reschen and Dirk Kukertz. Hello. Thank you very much for your support. So, we are ready to start, I think. Geri and Fredrik, we are prepared to ask questions. And if I read correctly our Regie plan from today, then our first speaker is Rachel Tully. Do we have... Yeah, we have her in the studio already.
Yes.
Hello.
Hi, good morning.
So, can you briefly introduce yourself and give us a brief sketch about your, on the one hand side, educational background, and on the other hand side, your role in this initiative?
Yeah, my name is Rachel Tully I represent today Extremadura's Energy Agency in the southwest of Spain. My background is in industrial engineering. Our agency is focused on renewable energy, energy efficiency, energy planning, all of the strategic definition of energy action plans in the region. And I'm here today as coordinator of this CSP ERA-Net.
Great, hello. And so were you also coordinating this from the beginning on? So have you been also initiating this network, or have you stepped in later in the process? How long does it exist?
This specific ERA-Net?
Yeah.
It started in 2018.
Yeah.
So it's a very recent ERA-Net, but a very experienced consortium, because most of the members have been involved in other ERA-Nets before that.
Yeah. And has there been something on CSP already before this concrete ERA-Net?
I will explain it in my presentation later on, but yes, CSP was before included in solar. It was included in solar ERA-Net, but it didn't have as much significance as it should have, so now it has its own ERA-Net.
I see.
Yeah.
Great, so let's start with your presentation. The floor is yours, and you're gonna give us an overview about the initiative in this first block.
Yes. So as I was saying, this ERA-Net began in 2018 with the preparation of a proposal and the submission to the European Commission. And after its approval, it began in 2019, so it will go on until 2024. It involves only 11 partners from 8 different countries, including 2 regions. And it's pooling nearly 30 million euros between national regional funding, European Commission support, and private funds. So I will just go over 4 key aspects. First of all, the established objectives in the proposal and how we are planning to meet them in this technology. The importance of a sturdy and experienced consortium as well for a good implementation. And a quick overview of the different projects that have been funded under the first call and the results of this call. So solar energy is the most abundant on the planet, and it's definitely going to play a key role in the future energy supply, both from a thermal and electric point of view. Among solar energy, we have photovoltaics, which was dealt with and deeply addressed last Friday. So today it's all about concentrated solar power, or solar technology as it's recently being called as well. The good thing of this technology is that it allows energy. It allows to manage the energy through the storage, energy storage, thanks to the molten salts. So this is a very important issue that has to be highlighted if we want to achieve an emissions-free future scenario. This technology is often related only to southern countries and regions of Europe, but indeed the inclusiveness of Europe is very high, given the fact that the future market is going to be global. So it's important that countries with high research capabilities find the topics in which they can contribute to develop more effectively this technology. Even if it has many advantages, there are still a few challenges that have to be faced. The aim is to reduce the investment and maintenance costs so it can reach competitiveness regarding levelized cost of electricity and thermal energy, to increase its efficiency and viability at system and component level, and to reduce the footprint of this technology, which is mainly the water consumption and the heat transfer fluids. It has many benefits as well in other type of applications, as could be industrial heat processes or thermochemical systems. In the proposal, we defined 3 strategic objectives in which CSP ERA-Net can contribute to. Accelerate the time to commercial deployment of affordable and cost-effective technology solutions that will allow to reach a decarbonized system in a sustainable way. To place this CSP technology as a reference in the European Union long-term strategy, covering the gap that other renewables have regarding manageability or dispatchability and storage at an affordable cost, and to move away from the fragmented system of national policies towards an integrated European R&I approach. Previous efforts at European level, or why the CSP ERA-Net was born. CSP ERA-Net is based on the identification of topics that were developed through the set plan temporary working group in CSP. This group had several meetings during 2016 and 2017 to draft the implementation plan that contains specific R&D activities. This work developed in the identification of 12 topics with a funding gap of 170 million euros, which was quite high. So then they prioritized 8 topics from these 12 with a funding gap of 60 million euros. So this has been the working paper that CSP ERA-Net has followed, especially when defining the topics for the first co-fund call, which you can see on the screen. After the first call, we can say that most of the proposals received were focused on topics number 2 and number 3, and with a high intensity on topic 9, which is advanced thermal storage energy, as I was saying before, one of the biggest benefits of this technology. There have also been previous coordination effects at project level, as I was saying before. Not until 2018 we had a specific ERA-Net for CSP. Before that, it was included in the solar ERA-Nets. The only problem is it was very underrepresented compared to photovoltaics, and both technologies, even if solar, they have very different potential and they still have very different challenges encountered. So ideally, it was ideal that they got their own ERA-Net. Some of the benefits of this, even though it's a very new ERA-Net, as I was saying before, it has experienced partners. This allows to have additional funding available because the budget that was before dedicated to solar ERA-Net had to be shared between PV and CSP, and now budgets have been raised for each of the technologies. CSP also has a very good potential for combining or hybridizing the plants with other technologies, so it's a possibility that will be explored in the future. And as well, I would like to highlight the possibilities of cooperation among countries, even if the technology can't be deployed in all of the countries, but the research activities can be developed. I would like to give a quick overview of the consortium because I think it's the heart of an ERA-Net and of a good implementation. So as I was saying, there are 11 different members from 8 countries, including 2 regions. And it has many strengths. our consortium, not only because of the members, but the common interest they have in CSP, the commitment to achieve results in this field. And it's been very easy because most of them have a common background in solar power, and they are very experienced in launching joint calls. So Spain is represented by the State Research Agency, which manages the state programs and the strategic actions of the set plan, funding public entities, universities, research institutions. On the private side, we have the Center for Development of Industrial Technologies that manages national and international R&D funding programs to support Spanish entities in their goals. From all of the ERA-Nets they have, 10 are focused on renewable energy sources. And still in Spain, we moved down to the region of Extremadura, that's represented by its regional government. They participate here supporting regional entities, both public and private. And we have the Regional Energy Agency, which only plays the role of coordinator. Germany is represented by Jülich Research Center, both through project management Jülich, that oversees the implementation of the energy research program at national level, and project management ETN, who is responsible only for projects funded in the region of North Rhine-Westphalia. Both of them with a vast experience in ERA-Nets. From Turkey, we have the Scientific and Technological Research Council, participating in research programs, both public and private, with a relevant experience of over 30 ERA-Net projects. In Greece, we have the General Secretariat for Research and Technology. It's the main policy maker and program owner concerning all of the research activities in Greece. And it supports both the scientific community and the industry. From Switzerland, we have the Swiss Federal Office of Energy under the Ministry for Environment, Transport, Energy and Communications, supporting private and public sector with and managing over 20 energy research projects, from the call definition to the project evaluation, monitoring. So it's important that not only they have experience, most of the partners in the joint calls, but also in national calls. So it's all been very helpful when defining our ERA-Net calls. From Italy, we have the Ministry for Education, University and Research that's responsible for preparing the national research program and defining the strategic priorities for research and higher education, and its experience goes back to FP6 and FP7 ERA-Nets, currently participating in over 25 as well. Portugal is represented by the Director General for Energy and Geology. They are program managers, and they design, implement and evaluate all of the policies related to energy. And finally, we have Israel through the Ministry of National Infrastructure, Energy and Water Resources, not only experienced in ERA-Net, but other research projects in the field of renewable energy, and especially as well in solar energy through PV, concentrated PV and concentrated solar. So just a quick overview as well of this ERA-Net implementation. As I was saying, it began in June 2019. Will go on until 2024. The work plan is established in quite a traditional way, mainly with many work packages led by Agenex, especially 2 and 3 supported by Jülich because they involve the electronic submission system that they prepared and they will present later on. Yeah, I'm getting the 5 minutes left. The management structure as well involves a project coordinator, work package leader and task leaders. We have a joint secretariat that is composed by 5 of the 11 members, and they are into more detail of all of the project activities, which then have to be approved by the steering committee. All of this with the support of the advisory board. Oops, sorry, and just a quick timeline of the call that was complete in October 2020. So the projects approved have just begun. Speaking about the projects approved and the results of the call, you can see here the requested funding by each funding agency, which is maybe not so relevant as the requested funding per country. If we see at the graph on the right-hand side, we can see that Spain and Germany both gather more than 80% of the requested funds. So we have I just wanted to mention the different projects that were approved. We have Europatmos, that's led by the Alera Institute of Solar Research in Germany, counts as well with the participation of Spain, Portugal, and Italy through CSP leading companies, SMEs, universities, and research institutions. InnoSol Power is led by Turkey, involves as well Greece and Italy, and tries to demonstrate a novel concept of microthermal energy storage. CICO project is led by Acciona Industrial in Spain. It wants to develop the cost reduction both in CAPEX and OPEX, as well as the environmental footprint. Test for Trig will develop new systems and investigate electricity production costs in the Mediterranean under real conditions. It's led by it's led by the National Technical University of Athens in Greece, involving as well partners from Germany and Spain. CSP Plus will develop a techno-economical evaluation of different energy thermal storage concepts for CSP plants, with the aim as well to achieve the cost reduction. It's led by the University of Lleida in Spain and involves partners from Israel and Turkey. And finally, we have Nucline, which is led by the Polytechnic University of Catalonia in Spain and involves partners from Spain, Germany, Switzerland. Among the impacts it's willing to achieve, most of them are common to all of the projects I have mentioned, which is to create qualified jobs in the sector in Europe, to reduce the carbon footprint of this technology, to reduce the CAPEX and OPEX costs, and to strengthen the competitiveness to recover the European leadership we had in this technology in the last few years, and we have sadly lost. So that's it. Altogether, we have nearly 40 partners from the participating countries, and that's it. I hope I didn't go over my time too much.
Thanks a lot for this first block. My observation, but please confirm, Rachel, if this is true, that this is a network that has at least two very strong partners in terms of commitment and also financial commitment. Is this something that creates a disbalance that you, or how and how can you work with this unequal situation? Is this difficult, or and the other thing is that also on the stakeholder side, because you were showing those laboratories, so it is a stakeholder community or a target group that is very concentrated on some certain labs in Europe, as I see. So it's not like, hundreds of research organizations or companies that are your target group. Is that the picture that I get? Is this correct?
Well, in some of the projects, to reply to this last question, we have partners that do some of the research, but then of course they need some fields to do the testing. So in this case, it's not unusual to have countries from the south in most of all of the proposals, because they have for example, Portugal, Spain, Italy, Greece. They have the testing fields with the solar conditions that are needed, but some of the tests or even the computer simulations, they can be done in countries from the center or the north of Europe that don't have the solar conditions sufficient enough for deployment. Regarding the commitment, it's true that there are some countries that have a higher commitment, but they are also as well the ones that have more partners involved. So it hasn't been a problem regarding the evaluation or the call process, because it's been even. The amount of funding available has been proportional to the amount of funding requested by those countries.
Okay.
So regarding the stakeholders, I think you mentioned as well, we work closely with the CSP implementation working group. So they have addressed. Well, there is also another project funded by Horizon 2020 that's called Horizon STE, And they have done a lot of work mapping the stakeholders in all of the different countries. So we do have this input that we receive from them, and then we can apply and use for the implementation of our ERA-Net.
Gary, Frederick, any observations, questions at this very beginning?
I have a question because of what I was seeing was that you were really taking the priorities of the implementation working group, and they are very many. And I'm curious to hear how these projects fits with those priorities.
Well, from the 8 priorities that were established by the group and transferred to our ERA-Net, only 3 have been requested. I mean, there have only been proposals in 3 of these priorities.
Okay.
Anyhow, from the last conversations we've had with experts from this group, and we might hear a bit more about that later on. They are now working on updating this implementation plan on CSP. So if their priorities change, then we'll still be in time to apply them to the second call of this ERA-Net.
When do you plan the second call?
Mid 2021. So we're still deciding either just before the summer or just after the summer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Rachel. I think it was a very interesting introduction to your network and your work. I'm very curious about the area. Maybe one question I'm thinking of is, you mentioned a lot of partners that seem very dedicated, but as we have noticed, I think in some of the other dialogues we've had here, that sometimes it's not only the most obvious partners of an ERA-Net, as I think there was an example of Austria and Ocean Energy, which someone would maybe not connect naturally. I can imagine that it might be similar for CSP technologies also, that there is interest in many other countries. Is this something that you have seen, or do you know if there are other stakeholders that either have contacted you that would like to take part, other funding partners, or from the other side around, maybe what usually is more noticed, have you seen applicants from countries that are not in your network that try to see, could we engage somehow?
No, we haven't. And even though you think that the obvious thing is what you were mentioning, no, that Austria is not involved in ocean technologies, we try to engage other countries, the Netherlands, and when we were preparing the proposal, and they were nearly at the end they decided not to participate. So I think it's still something that has to be proven, that not all technologies have to be where you are in order for you to research on that technology. So I think it's still difficult, and it's still more related to countries in the south of Europe, but I think slowly it is changing, and the benefits will be proved sooner or later. I think for Europe as an inclusive global system.
That's good. Thanks a lot for that input. I guess one reason I ask also, I know, for instance, in Sweden, where I'm based, we have a few companies that are involved in CSP projects from the technology side. Apparently there are not good conditions to set up a CSP plant in that way in Sweden. But sometimes the barrier to join a full initiative might be too high, but still there are interested stakeholders. So,
yeah, there are universities I know in Finland as well that are researching this technology, and there are, as I say, testing fields that allow other research institutions to test in their sites, not a commercial plant, but maybe collectors for testing different solutions. So yeah, that could be an option.
Thanks.
Cool. I saw there was also a kind of announcement from Estrella Fernandez in the chat regarding the additional call. It would be really nice to bring other countries on board to balance the consortium and diversifying the project. So maybe some potential partners are watching the event today, and maybe you can give them at least, so they could join. It means, right?
Yes, yes, definitely. We can try and bring other countries on board for this second call. Yeah.
Great. Do we have something to discuss more on this introductory block, or should we move over to our next session? Let's move on, maybe. The next session is dedicated to the call process and the tools that are used for the call process. And the presenters are going to be Beatriz, Renate, Cambulaquao, Julio. Yeah, welcome. Nicolas and Dirk are bringing you up in the studio. Very cool to see you. Hi there. So, a whole group of presenters. Great. Maybe we take it in the way that as soon as your part starts of the presentation, you make a short introduction of your personal background, institutional background, and your role in the network. Is that okay for you? Then I would say the floor is yours, and I don't know who is about to start.
I'm going to start. I hope you can hear me. Yeah.
Great. Yes, we hear you well.
Then,
please.
Okay. I am Beatriz Gómez Miguel, and I work as a head of unit for the Agencia Estatal of Investigation the Investigación, the Spanish State Research Agency, and I am in charge of international co-fund initiatives in the fields of energy, material, digital technologies, and climate. Okay, I am the first one in this second slot where we are going to present the call processes and tools that we are implementing. Okay, the first point is the complete picture of the call processes. I have divided it into 5 stages, starting with the call preparation that finish when the European Commission give the okay to launch the call. This call launch finish when you have all the proposal in your system, then the proposal evaluation. At the end, you have the selected projects. These 2 stages, call launch and proposal evaluation, can be repeated in case that you have a 2-step procedure that is mandatory in case of co-found calls, like CSP. Case, this first one. Then the project execution starts with the establishment of the legal issues and finish when all the projects complete the execution. Finally, you have to carry out some kind of ex post analysis. Inside these stages, you have a lot of processes to implement, and this gives you an idea about the complexity of the call, but this complexity can be more because it's more indeed because you have to handle external actors, mainly these experts that are going to work with you in some of the processes. I have put them in yellow in this first level of processes that I have identified. Then you have to handle external actors, more complexity because you had to handle these regional and national processes that are included inside any co-op and are really, really different one from another. Even more because each project has particularities that you have to handle in case by case, of course, and indeed because in general, when you finish the project selection or at the beginning of the project execution, you start to prepare the next call. Then, for example, the project execution is around 3 years, then you can see that you are going to have several calls in parallel. This is a really complex process, or the complete process. But you could say that all the calls are the same, but are really different indeed, because there are many different implementations inside the processes. The first process that can be really different is a thematic area selection, the topic definition that you are going to see later. that is really different in case of a CSP, sorry. And we have got a really well structured process with very specific topics and with high tier levels that are not very common in ERA-Net. Okay, it can be different because of the funding approaches you follow. You can establish a strict funding approach that say that only one topic can be included in one proposal or several or whatever. This can be different. Eligibility is a really, really important point, not only due to the differences between the regional national rules and the common eligibility process, but too because you have to take into account a really high variability of issues. For example, if one partner is not eligible at some point in the process, you have to take into account the rules you are going to apply. For example, you can say if it is the coordinator, then the proposal is dismissed, or if the workload is so high, or for example, if they can continue without funding or not. This can be really different. Okay, regarding the funds coming from the European Commission, we all know that the topic use is really different from one ERA-Net to another. The expert panels and all the participation of experts in the ERA-Net can be organized in many different ways. For example, you can have an advisory board that is working with you along the ERA-Net or the call, but you can change this advisory board each year or 2 years, or even you can ask for experts when are necessary. And finally, of course, the endorsement processes can be really, really different, and sometimes a little group can make decisions or not, or whatever. This group of processes are really important because you can compromise transparency depending on the way you deal with them. Indeed, some of them are now in the last ERA-Nets it's mandatory to include these processes in a deliverable related to ethics. Okay, and then you have another group of processes really important. For example, the last one, the link with other stakeholders, can include, for example, relations with other ERA-Nets, experts or networks of expert, academia, industry, even society itself. Yeah, then this can be really, really a complete group of processes at several levels. Of course, the processes, they don't work properly from the beginning to the end, and you have to monitor your own processes and to learn and to update. Thankfully, some of these processes, and some of them really critical, are supported by tools. And this is the reason why I'm going to give the floor to Renate, that is going to present us the electronic submission system. Then, Renata, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you, Beatrice. Yeah, my name is Renate Horvath, and since 2016, I'm with the project management in Jülich. I'm working as a scientist in the field of photovoltaics, and I did my PhD in the field of silicon photovoltaics. Together with my colleague Kamula Kwao, I'm responsible for the electronic submission and monitoring system we are using in the CSP ERA-Net. Today, we would like to give you a rough overview of the tool we are using, and we would like to show you the key features of the tool. If we have a look on the slide and on the complete process, we can see that it is split up in different phases. During the pre and full proposal phase, the applicants can upload their data to the submission system. And on the other side, the funding agencies and the experts can download the data and evaluate the proposals and give feedback to the applicants. During the funding period, the electronic monitoring system is used. Therefore, or in the way that, for example, the dissemination plan can be uploaded or the reports can be uploaded in the system. These data can be downloaded and transferred to the European Commission. But I would like to point out that this is an external step which is indicated with a dotted line. Next one, please. If you access our website of the submission system, you will find an interface which looks like this. On the left-hand side, there are different sections for the specific users. In addition, we have a download area for further information concerning the application process. For example, the funding criteria or a guideline how to proceed in the submission system. Next one, please. Today, I would like to give you just an example for the coordinator login. He or she has to upload the relevant project data. You can see on the left-hand side that for all data, there are specific sections where the coordinator can fill in the data, like the partner profiles, the work plan, the milestones, finances, and so on. If everything is completed and the finalization is done, a fact sheet can be generated. The data will be transferred from one phase to the next phase. Next one, please. The feature of our system for the funding agencies and for the experts are very comparable. So in principle, they have access to all assigned proposals. There is a download area for the two user groups. And after the finalization of the evaluation, they can upload their results in the submission system. And now I would like to hand over to Kambula Kwao.
Thank you very much, Renata. Yeah, my name is Kambula Kwao Chakanga. To my background, I am also a physicist with a postgraduate program, Renewable Energies, Master of Science, and a PhD also in the field of photovoltaics. In my PhD, I conducted experimental and numerical analysis on laser texturing of glass substrates for light encoupling in thin film silicon solar cells. Similar to Renata, I've also been with the project management Jülich since 2016 as a research scientist in the field of photovoltaics. And I'm also responsible with Renata for the ERA-Nets. All right, so to the slides. Next slide, please. No, the previous one. Perfect. No, that's the right one. So while we have experience with the electronic submission system from other ERA-Nets, we are going to implement the monitoring system for the first time in the CSP ERA-Net. And the monitoring system is basically an extension of the submission tool as well. So what you see on the slide on the right side is what Renata already showed of the different processes that can be conducted in the monitoring system. And then in the background and left side, what you see is the interface of the monitoring system. So in the following slides, I will show the process of the first annual report as an example, and then also outline the possibilities of the different user groups allowed to access the tool. The next slide, please. So once you log in as a coordinator, there are the different sections which can be accessed. And these different sections can be distinguished into three main categories. Most of the data, similar to the submission tool, is also transferred from the previous phase. So the first category of data, it is information that cannot be edited. but it is, however, transferred just to give a status of the project at the beginning. And it is also meant to aid the coordinator to differentiate the progress in the project, and also for the funding agencies while reviewing the reports. This is meant as an aid. Then there's the second category, which can, should, and must be edited. Can be edited is additional information or upload information, which is maybe not considered in the monitoring system, but the coordinator feels is important or relevant for the funding agencies. Should be edited are scientific results, for example, that should be elaborated, the progress in the defined work packages, or the milestones as an example. Then we have a survey section. It's a questionnaire, which is also very mandatory for the submission of the report. And the content of the questionnaire is partly defined by the EU and partly by the CSP call office. So this questionnaire entails information apart from the scientific results. This can be, for example, any changes in the consortium, but also other information such as which scientists are involved in the project, also in the sense that which age categories or which publications have been conducted within the project. And this questionnaire, it makes it easier to conduct statistical evaluation, and also is a very important aspect for knowledge management. Then there's the third category, which is regarding finalizing the report, termed fact sheet in this example. Here, the coordinator has the possibility to review the PDF format at the end of the process, conduct validation check if all the sections which require information have also been edited, and then finally submit. The next slide, please. For the other groups, the partner and the funding agencies, they can access the report that the coordinator submits, and also some of the information. So the partner, this is the most important part. They can review the report drafted by the coordinator, and they also have to confirm the results before the coordinator can submit the report. Then the funding agencies, they can access the report for evaluation and also as a deliverable, for example, for the EU. The next slide, please. So to summarize, using the electronic submission system and the monitoring system, they have many advantages which we recognize, which I would like to outline at the end of this presentation. But before that, I would like to list a few of the limitations. We noticed that further features could be exploited in the sense that the tool could be extended, for example, to allow communication between the different user groups, because this is limited at the moment. And also the process of the same document by different entities. This is one aspect which could also be exploited, and also allow statistical analysis within the tool, because at the moment the statistics have to be conducted externally. And also it would be more advantageous if the reports could directly be transferred, for example, to the EU platform from these tools. So basically, fully digitalizing the process would be the consequent step to take. Then finally, I move on to the strengths that we recognized. I'm still on the previous slide. The strengths that we recognized. So the tool provides a centralized database for the involved entities. This is a good aspect. And the lessons learned from one phase to the next can easily be implemented because the tool allows for manual adjustments. And also the surveys that can be conducted with such tools for statistical analysis is a very important aspect for knowledge management. And also finally, the tool simplifies the submission and the monitoring process for all the involved parties. Okay, then I move on to the final slide. And in this sense, thank you very much for your attention. And if you have any questions, gladly now.
Okay, so I will share my screen if everything is right. Sorry. I don't know why I can't share my screen, maybe.
Maybe, thank you very much, Kambula Kwao. And maybe before you have solved your technical problems and the team will help you, I think maybe we can, in between, jump a little bit in the discussion already about the submission tool, so we can split the presentation maybe a little bit up while you are trying to solve this issue. Frederick, that was a very impressive presentation of a submission, and not only submission, but really call management tool. Any things that you want to go a little bit more in detail?
Sorry, I think I was muted there. No, I can only agree. It was very interesting to hear your presentation, and I mean we've seen many examples, but to me from these dialogues, this was by far the most modern submission system. Of course, I don't know exactly what system the other uses, but I'm curious to hear more about it. Did you have maybe one question? I'm not sure if you mentioned that in the beginning, but before taking the system up to this ERA-Net, what experience did you have or partners in your network? How did it come about? I think that's could be interesting to some, you know.
To be honest, we started in the ERA-Net in 2017, so the tool was already implemented in the solar ERA-Net for a few calls. I don't know how many, so I can't give information about the transfer from the old school version.
That's good, but does that mean that you didn't do a lot of adaptation? So you basically you took that onwards, but it's kind of the same system that you used then as was in the solar ERA-Net before.
Exactly. We have to adapt some sections, but in principle, it's the same system we are using in the solar ERA-Net. Yeah.
Okay, and is that the same for the electronic monitoring system that you were showing also that was connected?
For the electronic submission system here, actually, this is our first time using it. And here, how we went about it, we heard from another department that they had such a tool. So we informed ourselves and researched a bit online which tools are available. And then we tried to gather their experience with the tool. And this is then how we came about it, and we suggested it for the CSP. So we have a comparison with the solar ERA-Net, where we didn't have the monitoring tool, where we use everything with emails and everything. And now with this new tool, which we are going to implement in the CSP for the first time, and it just shows so many advantages. There's less emails, less paper. It's quite convenient, it seems.
Sounds good. Yeah, I can imagine. Maybe I will stop there. I have plenty of questions, but it was a good insight. Maybe some others have questions.
Yes, Gary, maybe also on the presentations so far, but I have also heard that the presentation is now ready then to go on. But please feel free.
Okay. Well, I'm wondering with this monitoring, how's the interaction with the offices in the various funding organizations envisaged, because they will have to be in accordance. Well, they will have to be happy with the progress of the projects. How are you doing that?
Can you rephrase the question? How do you mean, like how we are going to manage with the communication? I didn't understand it.
Yes, during the implementation of the projects, there will be changes to there will be trouble, and
Exactly.
and you need to communicate between one another and with the
Yeah.
project about that.
Yes, exactly. So this is one aspect of the tool. So we have the different user groups defined, and each user groups has different rights. So in the beginning, just a bit of technical aspects. They have to register with us first before they can get access. And then when they register, then we have to verify their identity. So once they have this registration, then they can access the information. For example, the funder groups, they can access the reports. And this is where the limitation comes in of the monitoring tool. Because if, for example, a report has problems and the funding agency wants to communicate with the coordinator to ask them, can you adapt this section, or if there's problem in the project, there's a delay and everything, and they have already reported on this in the report. We at the moment we don't have the possibility that the funding agency can contact the coordinator in the tool. They have to
Okay.
use an external medium. So this is what we meant by how we see in the future that this tool could be improved to allow this communication. But then you also have to keep in mind, for some groups, we don't want them communicating between themselves. Renata mentioned in the previous phase that there are evaluators involved in the process. So you don't want the evaluators, for example, communicating directly with the coordinators. Yeah, so there's just some fairness and also for some transparencies. But this is something I think should be technically possible to limit behind, that a certain group can contact a certain group and so on. So this is one aspect which has still a lot of potential.
Very
Yes.
interesting,
Thank you.
because that was exactly what we also struggled always with our Xpera platform, that this communication is not included. And another thing that we
Exactly.
are working on is the participation management. So as soon as so to combine different platforms, like as soon as you have onboarded, which is often a little bit of a struggle for people to get onboarded, but as soon as you have onboarded them, they should be able to select from the menu more or less where they want to be connected, and so that you can communicate with the ones that
Yeah.
show their interest in some certain aspect. So that's very interesting, and I think we should definitely go into more exchange in detail about this, because here I see really a high potential to
Yeah.
put our knowledge together and create something that is really useful for this community. At the end, it's always also about technology, so we have to find out on which platform you built this, or if things are combinable that we already have, or if we have to somehow decide for one or the other, or start a new platform, whatever. But I think that will be very interesting. I think, if I'm correct in the series of events, that was the more or less the first kind of these tools that we have heard about, besides the Xpera platform, right? So let's move on. And I think what we're still missing is the part of the presentation from Julio. Is that correct?
Yeah, that is correct.
Yes. So
Sorry
please
for the
go ahead.
inconvenience.
No problem.
My PowerPoint window was not being, I don't know. I don't know what was the problem. So, okay. I think Beatriz is supporting me on this. Thank you very much, Beatriz. My name is Julio Marchamalo, and I work at FECIT, or the foundation, the Spanish Foundation for Science and Technology, which is working closely as third party of the AEI with my colleague Beatriz. And I have a background in physics and specializing in geophysics and meteorology. And I'm gonna say like a newcomer to these to the ERA-Nets, because I've been working in physics since last December, but I have some experience in the programs and H2020 programs, because I've been working in the European Department of the National Research of the National Research Council here in Spain. And I am going to briefly present the communication and dissemination tools and infrastructure that we have on the CSP ERA-Net. Yeah, but you can do it. I would like to begin remarking that the center of the project communication on CSP ERA-Net is its website, which is like a for things, a channel to create dialogue and engage with participants and the general public, also an instrument to promote the funded projects and goals of CSP ERA-Net, and also a channel for internal communication, repository of documents and dissemination materials for the consortium, etc. I would like to just remark briefly some statistics from the website that has had more than 7,000 users and almost 30,000 views from the beginning of the project on 1 June 2019 to almost today. Next slide, please. To follow, I would like to present one of the most important points of an ERA-Net communication, I think, which is the promotion of its calls. As good practices on the first CoFund call promotion, I would like to highlight the visual materials, like the poster that you can see in this presentation, which contains like a visual information, description on the topics, the first joint call, key dates, partners, etc., which is like very informative for potential applicants, and also the informative webinar who took place just 1 week before, after the call launch. All the information of the call is available at a separate section on the website, containing obviously all the call documents, link to the submission system, to the electronic submission system, a brief description on the call. The topics are also available on the home to make them more visible, which I think it's a very good idea. And also, of course, the key dates on the call, etc. Of course, this structure is going to be improved but replicated in the next in the next call for CSP ERA-Net. And I would like to highlight that our results section is coming on the website, which will contain information of the 6 funded projects on this first CSP ERA-Net call, with some brief description of the outcomes of the project, list of partners, and also a descriptive video, which is going to be uploaded at YouTube, our YouTube channel, of around 5 minutes, with the project coordinator talking about the main outcomes of each of the projects. Next slide, please. I would like to talk about another important section on the website. It's the matchmaking tool, quite useful to propose and search project ideas and partner matching when the call launches. In fact, 20% of the applicants that use this tool later became partners of the funded project. So it's been useful. Of course, it can be improved, but for sure, this tool with some improvements is going to be used in the next CSP ERA-Net call. Next slide, please. Another important thing to point out is in the communication of CSP ERA-Net is the strategy used in the publication of news and events on the website. A visual differentiation is used to publish the external news and events related to the CSP community, but not directly to the project, from the internal news and events, which you can see there. The kickoff meeting of one of the funded projects is what took place some days ago. And I think it's important to the viewer to just differentiate this kind of news and events on the website. So I think it's quite a nice practice to do that. Also, another strategy on the communication is the publication of all the news and events that are being published on the website to be published also on social media, which I'm going to talk about a little bit later, to engage more users to the website and obviously reach a broader public. Next slide, please. About the publication, I will only talk about the biannual newsletter, which usually contains information on the calls, depending on the process, for example, the promotion, if it's being open still, if it's still open when the newsletter is published, the proposal phase, evaluation, or whatever it's in the time, and of course the outstanding news and events that have been published on the website. And of course the subscription link is available at the home on the website. And next slide, please. One of the important things on the communication is the availability of the communication package, which is available for our partners, and that provided a project logo for the project, but also how to use it, a color palette to be used in the communication material, website, etc. Image bank, which it's disposable to the partners to be used on websites, news, but not only in CSP ERA-Net website, but also in their organization websites or etc. And obviously the templates for presentation like this one, the reports and deliverables, and as I said, the project news and events. All these, next slide, please, Beatriz. All
Julio,
this
you have to come to an end
available.
now, please.
Okay, yeah, I'm fine. I'm fine. The admin area is the internal communication for the consortium where all these materials are available. And lastly, I'm going to talk about social media, which is very important in these days. All the news, as I've been saying, are being published on Twitter and LinkedIn. And I want to highlight the creation of the YouTube channel, which is going to contain for now the project videos. And that's all for my part. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Julio. The finish was exciting to me. How you include also the social media channels. Communication is really, and that was very good that you picked that topic. Is really an important thing to think very carefully through, and I think you have very interesting and good concepts developed here. And during the implementation of the CETP, I think we will have to have a very close focus on this topic, and use the experience that you have here, because to reach the different target audiences, and as we will have this complex world of different stakeholder groups and technology fields in the CETP, that will be a very important topic. Thanks a lot for these insights. We have not so much time left for discussion in this session, but one or two questions I think would be possible. Is there something from the audience that we should pick, Nicolas? There was one question from Susanne. Is this only a submission tool, or does the tool follow the call implementation, allocated budgets, the stages of the submission or subscription rate and so on? So is it also supporting the project selection phase?
So generally it's a submission system. We get the data in an Excel sheet, and then we have to do manually the ranking list and the financial planning. So it's more or less a submission system, yeah.
Okay, so there are many puzzle pieces maybe that we will find in our networks, and maybe there are some gaps that we will have to fill, but it's I think it's the most elaborated one for the submission phase and for the preparation phase of the call that at least I have seen. Another interesting aspect was, and I remember the meeting with the European Commission where Spain asked for or promoted the idea to use one unique submission platform in all Horizon Europe partnerships. As far as I know, this has not been implemented, so I think we will have to design our own tool. But there will be a handover, as I understood at the last ERA-Net ERA Learn workshop. There will be a handover procedure to the database of the Commission. So I think it will be more an interface topic here, but we will see. Let's go on. It's time to start the next session, and this is about the collaboration with stakeholders. Welcome, Julian Blanco. Nice to see you again. You have been very active also in the preparation of the strategic research and innovation agenda of the Clean Energy Transition Partnership Initiative, and it's very nice to have you in this event today. Julian, the floor is yours.
Hello.
Please introduce yourself and your background a little bit.
Good morning or good afternoon. My name is Julian Blanco. I'm the director of Plataforma Solar, which is a research center devoted to CSP technologies. It belongs to CEMAT. I'm an engineer, and I've also been involved in all this for more than 30 years. I'm also the coordinator of the joint program of ERA on CSP. And when this presentation was said to me, and the majority of the action, the activities were made in the context of this joint program of ERA. This is why I use this template and I use this context for this presentation. We have a lot, let's say, background of activities dealing with this. I'm going to briefly review the historic relationship of how this CSP ERA-Net has been, let's say, formed and defined. And the history begins in 2000, really started on the end of 2015, when the goals of the CSP plan was approved. We were one of the very first to be approved. We received from the set plan steering committee the mandate just to create an implementing working group to define the action to achieve that goal. And this started in the spring of 2016, in which we call a very large number of stakeholders, industries and research centers. We compiled around 50 of them that has a very active role. And during the spring and the summer, we were collecting the information provided to define that was at the end 12 activities that we made the definition, the final tuning, and just the full, say, proposals, just to define the activities that will form the core activities of the implementation plan on CSP. Once we have this list of activities, we address a number of let's say steps just to make the further not clarification, but that we wanted to achieve is like some kind of ranking of relevance to all the stakeholders with regard to the eventual funding of that, considering the difficulties just to fund this. The first step, it was just asked by the industrial stakeholder just to make a risk assessment. How suitable are these proposals, if these 12 proposals, if they were developed, to provide innovation that were suitable to be introduced into commercial plants. So they made a number of criteria, and it was a process just where asked all the stakeholders to provide inputs, and just it was the first, let's say, ranking, just to be sure that all these topics at the end could have of interest just for the industrial point of view. The second step that we addressed also in 2017 was the technological relevance. How relevant are these ideas, are this innovation to the technology, and also from the scalability, because also the industry wants to be sure that one idea that could be very interesting and very suitable to, let's say, 1 megawatt plant, if you make the upscaling to 100 megawatts, then it's unfeasible. And this wanted just to be, let's say, identified and removed from the very beginning. Even we made a first step about the TRL assessment of all this. Yes, also they want just to be sure. And then this is why we agreed on a final ranking of the initiatives, in which we defined to 7 of these, that later on we rescue another one, just that we have the higher the score, we have the higher relevance from all the previous steps that were addressed. Even though we make also within the 2017 year, we have a lot of activity related to this, a final mapping of activities, also checking the interest of the countries involved in all this story. We wanted just to identify which topics are relevant to which countries, and eventually which countries will be able or will be suitable to allocate money for the financing. And then we, let's say, here identified that for all of these activities, there was just one country, or not more than one country, that were explicitly they wanted to support. We give just up to 3 topics just to be selected from each country. And this is why we arrived to the estimation that we need a minimum of at least 60 million euros just to the implementation of these 8 topics that were selected in all this long process that we addressed and heavy in 2017. So when we arrived to 2018, we have just the full, let's say, implementation plan approved. It was complete. We have all the supporting information. We have all the data. And then we have to look for suitable tools to finance. And this is when the call for the ERA-Net call, the Horizon 2020 from the Commission, there was a call that was closed in September. And then we push, we would just to try to make some broking just to success a proposal. And this is why the current ERA-Net that we are now discussing and presenting was submitted and was succeeded. And this is, they started with this is a slide from the spring of that year, that discussion. So, as a conclusion, the first call, the only call that this ERA-Net has launched, was addressing these 8 topics that were selected in all these previous steps that we addressed in 2017. And okay, this is the history, let's say, so far. What is the current status of all this activity and the link between the ERA-Net and the implementation working group of the CSP? So we are now in the process of making an updating of the implementation plan. In a meeting that was made of the implementation plan general assembly, it was officially approved, the updating of this, due to a number of reasons. I mean, just we want to enlarge the topics, and we want to address, let's say, another activities, because this existing implementation plan so far is fully addressed and fully focused on the production of electricity by means of CSP. And we wanted also to extend to other topics like process heat, industrial process heat by CSP, and the solar fuels or hydrogen production by thermochemical process also by CSP. This is so. This added to a number of reasons. Yes, we proposal we discussed, it was approved, and we are on the process just to move from the 12 existing activity, the one that we defined in 2017, 16, sorry, into just 6-1, but with higher, let's say, a scope of activities. This we are just on the process, and I mean, we will see if we achieve the finalization of this new implementation plan by May or by September, in order to be approved by the steering group of the set plan in May, if possible. So if it is this finished, the idea is just to again contact with the CSP ERA-Net in order to check if, let's say, these new activities, the new topics of the implementation plan could be the one that will be reflected into the new call or not. It will depend on the finalization on time or not. And this is basically the quick summary that I wanted to address about the background of all the long process that all the very large number of stakeholders were behind just to define the activities and just to endorse what the CSP ERA-Net is doing so far.
Thank you very much, Julia, and also impressed to see how well CSP ERA-Net is also integrated in the set plan environment of the working groups. I think that's also something that we definitely should make sure that with the work in the CETP, we will keep those important links, because you have also shown that on these different levels, the stakeholder involvement is done, which is an important part, I think, of the overall work we are trying to do. Thanks a lot for those insights. Questions from my co-moderators or from the audience? While I'll check a little bit with Nicolas the chat, please, Frederick and Gerdi, feel free to start.
Yes, thank you very much, Julian, for your explanation. Interesting to see how this all came about. I'm curious, what do you see as the main place of concentrated solar power in the energy system, considering the flexibility and also, potentially industrial applications? What's your vision on that?
My view on that. We have I can say, for instance, in the case of Spain and Portugal, that is the one that we are more focused. This is naturally, and also CSP has an important development in Spain. So we see that in the evolution of decarbonization of the energy sector, it is clear that for instance, in Spain, they has been decided to abandon the nuclear energy, and the coal is nearly closed, and we have only the gas combined cycles, which are going to be maintained to the next 10 to 15 years. But once we be forced by political decision, the combined cycle will be shut down due to the reduction of the CO2 emission, the greenhouse gas emissions. There is a lot of difficulties to achieve the full decarbonization because we need to guarantee the dispatchability. And so far today, the only technology with reasonable cost that can provide such dispatchability and some security of supply, let's say at night, is CSP, which has been demonstrated. And in Spain, for instance, the vision, the plan that the ministry is putting on the table is that to start to develop new CSP plants, which basically is going to provide electricity at night, because the intrinsic characteristic of thermal storage, which makes possible to supply the solar energy during the day and supply during the night, make this fully feasible. We have already plants in Spain that can work 24 hours. And in this way, the combination of PV and CSP make a very full synergy, because we can provide during the day the energy by means of PV, and then also use the thermal storage and just continue to provide the electricity during the late afternoon or the night, full night. This is technically no problem, fully feasible. The cost reduction that this is envisioned is this technology will be always a little more expensive than PV, but clearly cheaper than gas. So from the point of view of the cost, is fully, let's say, we can fully integrate, and we visualize that in Spain, and it could be the case of many other, let's say, South countries, in the case of Europe, but there are also many other places around the world, that CSP could have a key role just to guarantee the full dispatchability of renewable electricity after 2040. This is just because the last 10% of CO2 reduction is going to be very difficult to achieve unless we have the large development of storage technologies, but also a very cheap cost that make possible also to fully integrate into the system. But CSP today is on track and can really fully fulfill this role.
Thank you.
I saw one thing in the chat maybe that we could pick up. How are countries committing money for the implementation plans coming from the set plan? I think, yeah, we have different experiences in different working groups for this. In the implementation working group 4, where I am active, we see that the ERA-Net smart energy systems is the main tool that we use for this. Is that comparable to your experiences in the CSP world, or do you have established other mechanisms also?
We have a lot of discussion with authorities from ministries of several countries in 2017 and 2018. And we could not find any suitable mechanism, and this is why the only one that we identified this ERA-Net call, and this is why let's go to this, let's apply, and in the meanwhile we will continue to exploring and to see, but it is not easy to
but
find.
Do you think it needs another mechanism, or couldn't we rely on the mechanism that we are building with this joint programming platform in the framework of the Clean Energy Transition Partnership?
I have to say that I personally, I was very, let's say, against the ERA-Net context, because the ERA-Net is makes, from the administrative point of view, quite difficult. It has been, let's say, simplified a little, but still there is a lot of complexities just you need to apply at different national levels for the funding. This imply that there are different timing in the starting. Also, the national context in some countries, Spain, one of them, have a lot of restriction about the financing. Also, the amount of money devoted is very low. So there is a lot of difficulties that make, let's say, so far strongly complex just to use this to address a big challenge. So this is
Understood. Do you see other mechanisms that we have in place that could be used? I mean, the other forms of the partnerships, the co-financed and the co-programmed partnerships that some of the topics are using might be an alternative, maybe?
But it could be. But the point is that at national level, at government level, there are some countries that these other mechanisms are not allowed, or they are not considering. So this is why, in most cases, the discussion stopped from the very beginning.
Oh, okay.
This country does not consider the use of this mechanism. There are not anything else that we can discuss.
I have
Any
another
other questions, Fredrik?
Yeah, I have. I mean, I was going to dive into very deep technical questions because you were talking, but then I was thinking maybe more interesting if we take an outlook from Europe. I mean, this is a technology you described very clearly also from a Spanish perspective and the countries around that are active in the ERA-Net. How do you see on, I guess, both the need for increased collaboration with the countries beyond Europe, whether it's in Africa or other continents, and also whether you see that this is something, if now you said something about the ERA-Nets and some challenges we have, but if this is a topic in the CETP, for instance, that is there a big need you would see to try to use that also to reach out beyond Europe?
To my understanding, that Europe, there is a lot of potentials and synergy on that. If you integrated the wind from the north with the sun from the south, you can ensure that you can fully supply all the energy that Europe needs. The problem here is that the energy is the only topic in which the borders still remains in Europe. And so far, it seems that it is very difficult to remove this barrier. This is the key point, to my understanding, to my opinion, to make significant advance in this integration is to remove the borders to the energy. Otherwise, this kind of clear, let's say, synergies and complementarities cannot significantly advance. But the potential, I mean, just taking the wind from the north and the sun from the south, you have the full potential to supply, I don't know the 100%, but the large majority of the energy. This is just, and of course, if you can also integrate here all the north of Africa, but just with the existing potential within Europe is more than sufficient.
Okay, and maybe if I add to that, so if that's from an energy system perspective, if you would look from an energy technology perspective and industrial perspective, are there, you think, benefits for collaborating with the companies or researchers of other part of the world? Or how is the landscape when it comes to CSP?
Definitely. No. We also, at the joint program ERA, we have a very large scope of relationship with Chile, with South Africa, China, Australia, all the North Africa, the Middle East, US, because there are many places in the world with much higher potential for solar energy than Europe. What it is important, I mean, also the message that we have also provide is that so far Europe is clear leader in these technologies in the world. And this is why we have also a very good possibility of collaboration to further, I mean, to accelerate the deployment and development of these technologies in many other places in the world, which there are significant advancement. So I mean, this collaboration is strong, exists, and for sure we will continue and will be reinforced in the future. From the research and also from the industrial.
Okay, thanks. That's very interesting to hear. Now I hand back if my colleagues have more questions.
Maybe a word about the potential for industrial heat. Can you expand a little on that, Julian?
Yeah, I mean, the industrial heat is that there are many companies that have a very large consumption of the energy. One of the problems is that most of these companies are located in places in which there are not significant solar radiation. And also, many times, they have not the sufficient, let's say, space just to address it. But there are also many other, let's say, areas, of the agricultural manufacturing, and there are also many other topics that have very large potential in all the South European countries. And this is why we see this very good point to start and just to promote the development of industrial sector that we are convinced that has a very important, let's say, potential and possibilities of, say, provide solutions to this decarbonization process that is going to be a challenge from the electricity, but it's also more difficult or more challenges at the industrial sector because there are many processes that they need heat. And there is a very good, let's say, opportunity and potential just to integrate with CSP plus thermal storage to provide the assurance of, let's say, energy provision. So this is a process that definitely we are convinced that should be included into the implementation plan updated.
Mm-hmm.
If we don't have any additional things to discuss at the moment, then I would propose to jump into the last session of today's presentation, and that is how CSP ERA-Net is envisioning its transition from Horizon 2020 to Horizon Europe. And the presenter is going to be Beatrice and Rachel, hi again.
Hello. Okay.
Yes, we have you both now. Okay.
Yeah. Here, I can start with the presentation, yeah?
Yes.
Okay, what we want to give you is what we see, where CSP ERA-Net is going to be in this transition. The first point, of course, is the timing. The ERA-Net initiative and the partnership, they are going to overlap in time, and we can take advantage of these to provide cooperation between both sides, yeah? Not only regarding the initiative themselves, but taking into account the project that we are funding. We look for complementarity. We want to improve the visibility from one way to another, and we consider that it is really important, the exploitation of results that can be used during the partnership execution or the time, yeah? Okay. I think it's very remarkable that CSP ERA-Net is well aligned with CETP procedures and objectives. Of course, concentrated solar power is one of these clean energies. And we have been talking about medium and high TRLs for our projects that Julian presented before. That I think is very important in this newest partnership, because you can use, or we can use this technology well established with high TRLs in the projects as base in the projects to be developed in the partnership, because they are more transversal and they need a good base per technology. And of course, we are really deeply related to the set plan working groups, and this is common in our case and in the partnership case. Regarding the partners I think it's important to remark that, of course, we have policymakers, funding agencies, owners and managers of national funding programs. This is on the one side. On the other side, several of us, or most of us, we are involved in other ERA-Nets in the energy field, and probably we are going to become partners in this new partnership. Then we are going to be involved in one way or another in COFAN clean energy transition initiatives in H2020 from the side of ERA-Net, and in Horizon Europe if we participate in the partnership. Okay, we have tried to give a little view about CCP and this framework. We think that we have a lot of strengths, because we arrive in as ERA-Net later than others, but we have a lot of knowledge from the beginning due to this issue, and then we start with a very good plan from the beginning. We are a small number of partners. This give us a lot of flexibility, and we are easy to coordinate. Again, the many partners are going to be involved in this new partnership, and then we can have good connections. Regarding the objectives and the topics definition we have all of them really well specified. Then it's very easy to measure the results and to know what we are doing well or not. And of course, as you have seen, we have well-established and always upgrading infrastructure and tools. Okay, we have weaknesses because we know we have less muscle than in the clean energy sector than many other technologies. And we have a little background because this is the first ERA-Net in CSP. Related to the specific topics, we have more constraints than other calls regarding the possibility of a title of the proposals, and then this can be that at the end we had less proposal than others. okay, we have some threats in this transition, because in the end we can be ignored in this clean energy transition because we are really little. And we have another threat, that is the thing that once CETP appears, stakeholders' effort is focused on this new initiative. All the resources, we are talking about our own resources in the ERA-Net, the expert resources, and then we have to take care of this point. Finally, we are going to take advantage of the opportunities we have. We want to give more visibility to our projects in this transition. We know that we can ensure complementarity between the initiatives, the calls we present and the calls in the CETP, because we know there's RIA and because we are really involved with the set plan CCP working group. We can export procedures and tools, because we have good knowledge of the tools we use, but to the needs we have to cover over the next years. And for sure, we're going to push CCP in the environment of the CETP. Only to finalize, what we want to highlight is the 2 points that we wish partnership is that the ERA-Net outcomes that have been here for years, we have got a lot of good outcomes, not only from CCP, but from other ERA-Nets in the energy environment. We want them become part of the CETP background, like a baseline to improve, yeah? And what we would like to is that from the beginning, a clear communication schema could be established to get this, yeah, to get the use of the outcomes in the new step in Horizon Europe. From our side, what we can provide, this the management we have had regarding the involvement of the set plan working group. We have experience. We can give visibility at several levels and connection with CSP infrastructure already deployed, because in the new partnership, the integration of technologies is key, and we think that to use previous infrastructure can provide a higher level for a start in this integration. Of course, we can provide complementarity of efforts to fill the gaps in the call we are preparing. And finally, as you have seen, we have expertise in processes and tools, and okay, we think this can be useful in this transition.
Thank you very much.
All.
I think, yeah. I think you're definitely organization and initiatives is a very important and interesting partner for all the other initiatives that will try to work together in the CETP. You have a lot to offer, and we can use a lot of and build on a lot of things that you have already developed, and we can learn a lot from your experiences. It was great to see that today. Yeah, we are moving more or less into the final talk session, where we still can pick up some questions and topics that we might have. Maybe to start with, because you were talking about the transition, I think that when we look upon the challenges that we have identified in the strategic research and innovation agenda, then I think there could be some clear relations between your initiative and some of these challenges. I think there is a clear, strong relation to the power system challenge, I think, but of course also to the storage challenge, and that builds the bridge somehow to the heating and cooling. And of course, as you're gonna be, CSP is gonna be a part of the whole overall system. There's also clear relation, at least to the integrated European energy systems challenge, and maybe also to the regional energy systems challenge. Not so much to the built environment, I guess, but maybe also to the industrial energy systems.
Yeah.
Maybe. But looking on this, where would you see your home base more or less as an initiative to work, as we were talking about this kind of transition initiatives that we would build upon the challenges, and of course they would be interlinked, but do you have already an idea in which of these transition initiatives you would find your home base?
Sorry?
Not so far, maybe. So this is something.
No,
that we will
I
have to
couldn't
discuss.
hear very well. Sorry.
Is my sound bad at the moment?
No,
Question also
I
to
hear
our
you
technical
well.
support.
Yeah.
Okay,
We hear
it's
you
me
well.
probably. Yeah.
Okay. No, the question that I was raising is if you have already discussed, or if you are already have a picture where you see your home base for the CSP ERA-Net in the kind of transition initiatives that we intend to build on these challenges that we have identified. Is it the power system challenge more, or where do you think would be your home
I
base?
think quite transversal, yeah, because it's when you talk about CSP, I think Julian and Pedro Rodriguez, that were involved indeed in the SRIA generation, they have identified CSP as support in several challenges, and I think power is one of them, but I'm not sure how many of them, but I'm quite sure that we have anticipated the use of CSP and in combination with other sources in several challenges. Yeah.
Maybe, Michael, if I can add, I mean, my observation listening to the presentations, which were really good and interesting. I mean, besides that, I think I've learned a lot, and I'm more curious about your work to learn more. I think you're definitely one of those partners that all of us want to collaborate with. But I think listening to Julian's description in the end, and also some of the aspects with CSP, it connects to so many parts. And I think if I maybe as an advocate for the CETP, but I think that this is one of the reasons why the CETP is important, because some of the topics that goes horizontal or both vertical and horizontal, they are hard to handle in one single ERA-Net. I know we have in our ERA-Net Smart Energy System, we have some projects that have the CSP involved from a system integration aspect. But then, of course, as you mentioned, you have hybrid system you look at with CSP and PV, and there are so many aspects where I think that should have a good place in a bigger partnership, because that makes it easier to include that from a challenge-driven point of view.
Okay.
Yes, I think as Julian was saying before, CSP is complementary. Most of the renewable energies are anyhow, but obviously we have to highlight the benefits and the advantages that each technology has. So in the case of CSP, it doesn't make much sense that it competes with PV for generation during the day, but it does indeed make sense to cover the demand after sun hours. Here in our region, for instance, in Extremadura, if you combined a plant with PV and biomass, you could secure generation during 24 hours a day. Yeah. So I think this complementarity is the key. Yeah.
Maybe we have also a quite critical remark. As I read it in the chat, maybe we can elaborate a little bit on this. I'm not sure how to interpret it fully. I don't think that CSP has been ignored, but yeah, maybe you can say something about it.
Yeah, I can say that it's only that we consider the threats that we have, and we know that European environment is so high. It's only we try to identify the threats that we have. Of course, we have been involved in the SRIA generation, and we are here and we are going to be there. The point is that, of course, we know that CSP is not the area with more partners and with more experience, and all these things are important to be taken into account. It's not that we are going to be out. The point is we have to take care, because in the end, the goals that are going to be launched in the partnership have to had CSP inside. And I think when you try to promote as a huge number of energy possibilities, probably we have to push to see CSP in the first line, yeah? But it's not that we are out, not at all.
Mhm.
I thank you very much. I would like to observe that this legacy thinking, that in fact you said very clearly and I think rightly that that it will be important to make the connection between what is happening in your area now and what will be happening in the clean energy transition partnership concurrently and parallel. And this is, I think, a very valuable observation because it will be true for many of the ERA-Nets that will be the founding partners in the Clean Energy Transition Partnership. We have a huge legacy. We have ongoing projects, and you have even ongoing calls that will feed into the technology, that will feed the readiness of the technology that the Clean Energy Transition Partnership will further elaborate. So it's thank you very much for that.
Thank you, Ricardo.
Not so much of a question, I'm afraid.
Yeah, but
No,
I think it's
statements
very
are also
important,
allowed, I
yeah?
think.
Yeah.
Any other aspects that we should discuss here in this meeting? I also don't see very much going on at the chat at the moment. So maybe we already come to an end of this very interesting event today. I thank you all. It was very impressive in terms of the team that you presented and also the teamwork that you showed in the presentation itself, which I think is also shading a clear light on how you strong are as a team. And also how much of resources and knowledge you have in the team. Thanks a lot for taking the effort to contribute to this series of events. We know that this is always a lot of work to do and bring these people together at the same time. Thanks a lot for sharing your insight and your very valuable developments with us, and we are, I think, all looking very much forward to collaborate with you in the framework of the Clean Energy Transition Partnership. Thank you to my co-moderators. Thank you for the technical support. And yeah, I think we also have to say something about where we are in the process of all these events, because we have reached a point where we have to announce what our plans are, how we want to go on. At the beginning and every time in the intro video, you saw me saying that the basic concept was that we would also have a closer look to some interesting examples of challenge-driven or mission-oriented national programs, just to learn a little bit about, okay, what would it mean to be successful in that sense, as we have tried to identify challenges in this RIA, and now we have to think about how the CETP will go to implement on this. So we have found a few examples from national programs that are ready to present, and this is at the moment under construction with Nicolas, that is putting together a schedule here and finding arrangements with those program managers. And at the same time, I have to say that we have a last event planned and scheduled for next week, which is still dedicated on the discussion of the involvement of the ERA-Nets and the experiences that we have made in the ERA-Nets. That's led by our Czech friends that will do a presentation on what does it mean on the national level to get your national community involved in the transnational programs, and how do you advertise this? How do you organize this on a national level? I think that's going to be a very good final point in this discussion to look at it. What do we have to do on the national level? We've looked a lot into what we do on the transnational level to organize ourselves in the last meetings, but in this last event we will have more a look on what does it mean to organize ourselves on a national level. Thank you, Technology Agency of the Czech Republic, for this proposal, and we are very excited to hear and see your presentation next Friday, and I think we will have a lively discussion about this also very important aspect. So with this message, I leave you for today. We will send more information on the upcoming events in writing very soon. Stay also tuned on our LinkedIn channel, in the LinkedIn group if you want. Here we are also always sending our updates. If you are not on LinkedIn, of course, you can be connected via email and receiving Nicolas' messages. Thank you very much. Have a nice weekend and see each other next week.